everyone, and welcome to Collider Movie Talk. I'm your brave host, Mark Ellis, and this is the show where we do not allow green laser pointers. Wow, what a program we have today. Cowboy Ninja Viking gets a director, as does a little movie called Bad Boys for Life. Plus, Fantastic Beasts promises there will be no volleyball scene whatsoever. Joining me is one hell of a panel. Right over there is Mr. John Stephen Rocha.
Hello, everyone. Not so much here or here. More here. That's where I feel the pain. Oh. That's right. Is it? Have I left a mark? Has it left a mark?
There you go. All right. Don't worry, Rocha. We still got that Meat Lover's pizza in the trunk.
Hello.
Perri Nemiroff right here.
Actually, he keeps his pizzas in his desk drawer, didn't you know?
No, because it'll end up in the trash. Thanks, everyone.
It's a lot of food in Rocha's desk. That is Mark Reilly, who I believe we had a conversation about wearing a similar colored shirt to me, which you decided to ignore.
Yeah, that's a good, that's fun. I'm glad you got my Evite for the blue shirt. And it was a really funny comment. The check is yes, and I'll see your blue shirt and I'll raise you an even better looking blue shirt. It's nice. It's nice.
Reilly, did you get the memo? Okay, we are going to talk about this Han Solo trailer news where it might appear at the Super Bowl. But before we get to that, we have some breaking news about the new director that has just been hired for Chris Pratt's Cowboy Ninja Viking, and that would be none other than Miss Michelle MacLaren. You probably know her from her work on Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones. She is signed on to direct Pratt in the new movie. It's based on an Image Comics title about counterintelligence units that use multiple personality disorder patients to create agents known as triplets, referring to their three different personalities. When the agents become rogue hired guns, the deadliest triplet of them all, the Cowboy Ninja Viking, is called in to take them down. The movie is scheduled to hit theaters on June 28th, 2019. Perri, Michelle MacLaren had been circulated for Wonder Woman. She was actually working on the project for DC until she departed due to creative differences. Is this a good landing spot for her?
You know, it's not exactly the choice that I thought she was going to go for, especially because we had the Wonder Woman discussion. So I did think she was going to attach herself to something that was with a strong female character in the lead. But I mean, what's the difference, really? I'm glad to see her take a big project like this on. And ever since I first heard about this, I kept meaning to pick up the graphic novel, and then we just didn't hear anything else about it. So I'm like, all right, I bought it, but I'm going to read it later. Now might finally be the time to read it, because everything I know about that character, it just sounds like Chris Pratt is perfect casting for that role, and he is really going to be able to embody everything that character seems to be. And when you pair someone like her with material and with an actor like that, I mean, who's to think that this won't work out really well?
Yeah, Rocha, when you just hear the premise of Cowboy Ninja Viking, it seems like there's going to be some sort of sense of humor that you would have to think is injected into here. So do you think somebody who is coming from the world of Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones, where they take their subject matter pretty seriously, is that going to be an easy transition for the source material?
Oh, absolutely. Because if you've read the source material, there's so much going on here, family-wise as well. Because one of his brothers from the main guy's brothers is also one of these assassins, and there's a number of people involved in the whole situation. The scientist that's involved, everything that goes on with this. Because he's going to track essentially Blade Runner out in this weird kind of world. Because he's trying to track them all down and kill all the other triplets because they've all become hired assassins, hired guns, and so his job is to go. But it's so funny. That's the thing, because one's a hairstylist and this and this and this.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So it's just
one's a chef and this
jobs?
and this. Yeah, they're all random jobs, but all of them have an ability to kill. So that's always one thing that they have. But everything else is like weird and like different kind of jobs. So it makes it for interesting and fun, but also makes it pretty hardcore. And I think coming out of already doing this material with Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad, she's directed some of the best episodes of Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad. And the fact that they were considering her for Wonder Woman, I'll be honest with you, Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman is fantastic. We've all talked about it ad nauseum here. But her version of Wonder Woman was probably going to be a lot more grittier and darker. And that would have been interesting to see how they would have played that out with her version of it. And I love Michelle MacLaren as a director, and people speak about her highly all the time, and she's built up credibility through the years. She's only directed like 1 or 2 projects a year for a long time, and only recently started directing multiple projects on certain series. So to me, she's built this up she's built her credibility and her resume up to this point where we can be excited to see what they can do with it. And with Chris Pratt, just a great choice because he's so into the geek stuff. Cowboy, Ninja, Viking, all of it just speaks volumes. And it's a great read. If you've never read this series of comics, it's fantastic.
Is there an overt humorous tone to
Yeah,
the
well,
comic,
it's that kind of like smirking, humorous tone to it. It isn't like overt. It's just kind of sitting there like, and you make little jokes because it's got that Eastwood kind of vibe to it. You know, Eastwood, even in Good, the Bad, the Ugly, he always had those little asides and those little like smirks. It's that kind of humor. Yeah.
So it's perfect for Pratt then. Is
Yeah.
what you're
Oh
saying.
yeah. Dead on perfect for.
Well,
Pratt.
we have our own resident astronaut, Subway sandwich artist, hairdresser, Mark Reilly. How do you feel about Michelle MacLaren?
Which one am I right now? Subway sandwich
Sounds fair.
artist. Oil and vinegar on your sandwich. Then this is great. I've just was looking at her resume. Not only are we talking Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad, she did one of the best episodes when The Walking Dead was actually good.
Right.
Which was Guts.
Yep.
My God, and it was the first season. Probably the best episode of The Walking Dead. So, just as a director, I am ecstatic that she got it. She nailed it over a couple. Rick Famuyiwa, I saw he was up for it.
Yeah.
A dope director. So. Obviously, they wanted her, and she's in demand, and it makes sense if you look at her resume. And I was really wondering about the humor. So I'm glad you know this, Rocha, because I was like, how is this going to work? And the only thing that I have in my head is like Deadpool.
Well, the Deadpool screenwriters are the ones
Right.
who originated the script. I think they
did.
passed it over to the person who did Hangover 3, but that, regardless of source material, that can give you a sense of what they're going to go for.
Yeah, and I'm hoping I'm not crazy that the writer of Hangover 3 is doing hopefully a polish, because if we have the Deadpool writers doing the bones of it and creating the mythology and creating some jokes and whatnot, then I'm excited. This is one of those. I just don't know what it's going to look like. I want to read the source material, but I'm excited because it's Cowboy, Ninja, Viking.
I mean,
How can I not be excited for that?
Those are three really fun words to put together. Like, I remember there was a Beavis and Butthead book that came out, and they said that you just take three different cool words and you put them together, and any of that combination will be a cool band name. So they came up with like Screaming Monkey Stick, and I'm like, it's a pretty good band. Perri, do you like this having a summer release date? As of right now, it's slated for late June of next year. Is that fit for you?
Even if I barely knew anything about what the story was, just hearing that title and hearing Chris Pratt's name at this point, that is a summer movie package right there. He is so clearly, I mean, how many times does he have to prove that he's a huge star? This movie is going to crush it summer, especially if we start to see little bits of it and people start to realize this is actually gonna be something good. And obviously we don't know if that's gonna be the case because they're not even in production yet, but should things pan out well for this, I imagine, I wouldn't be surprised if come around this time, if not earlier next year, it's one of those trailers that is just, it bursts on the scene like it's batshit crazy. It puts the spotlight on Chris Pratt in the best possible way, and it just sounds like really exciting, different material for Michelle MacLaren, especially when you do go through her TV credits and see what she's done. This seems to be like something that stands out and can let her, flex her creativity muscles a little.
Plus, it's an interesting line to walk because this is an organization that was constructed to take advantage of people's multiple personality disorders. Like that's a very, very thin tightrope that you're walking to make sure you're not making fun of it or abusing it, or you got to treat it with a certain level of respect, but also with a certain level of like understanding and humor about it, that everyone is in on the joke to a degree. And as long as they portray it that way, I think it's great. And plus, it'll have a Western vibe to it, so that appeals to me. And it'll be fun. If they get it right, it'll be fun.
If you look at MacLaren's IMDb page, she is absolutely fit for this because not only did she do Guts, Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, she's directed an episode of Modern Family.
Yep.
So it's like she can jump in there and have some humor. But the thing that really stands out now that I'm thinking about is when they base it on these lesser known comic lines, I always go back to Cowboys and Aliens.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was announced and you're like, what? And you kind of hear the premise, Jon Favreau directing, Harrison Ford, Daniel Craig, and you're like, that's going to just kill it. And then it kind of tanks. But then I also think of Men in Black, based on a comic nobody's really heard of. That became a huge franchise. Maybe that was Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. Who knows? But these are all the comparisons I'm thinking. But MacLaren gets me confident in it.
Yeah, I mean, you look at like Cowboys and Aliens and Daniel Craig and even Harrison Ford at that time in his career. I don't know that they were opening movies the way that Chris Pratt has the potential to. So
Very true.
it does
Very
sound
true.
very similar to that title, but Chris Pratt is, I think he's a certifiable A-list movie star right now. So having him lead this movie next summer is pretty exciting for everyone involved. We don't know when we're going to see a trailer for that because I haven't started shooting, but did somebody say trailer? Okay,
Yay.
let's talk about it. Here we go. Can of worms, and they're out there. According to The Hollywood Reporter, the Solo, a Han Solo Star Wars fun story with Chewbacca and Lando. I think that's a new title. That trailer is officially going to debut during Super Bowl 52. Now, Disney has declined to comment on this story. If it were to pass, it would be the very first look at the movie, which has yet to share anything, such as a trailer or much more than an official image from the troubled production, which saw original directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller replaced with Ron Howard. The trailer, if the THR is correct in its reporting, is going to come just 4 months before it debuts in theaters on May 25th. So we've been speculating about when we're going to see this trailer for a while. I don't know if you knew that. And then earlier this week, I had the idea that maybe they would debut something during the Super Bowl. Maybe not a full trailer, but just one of those like teaser to the trailer kind of things, just to remind people watching the big game, hey, tune in later this week when you're going to see the first official look. Perri, it seems like we're actually getting that during the Super Bowl. Is that the right play for Han Solo to make his big announcement?
I think that it is an extremely risky move to debut the very first look of this movie during the Super Bowl, where there are so many movies and other products and entities and the game itself, the halftime show, vying for that spotlight. When I think about Han Solo, I was imagining that it would own a day, let's say in January, where that trailer drops, news stops, and that's all anybody covers all day. There is so much going on in Super Bowl. I don't really think it's the smartest move, and if I were part of the marketing team at Disney, I probably would have maybe dropped it this week instead. But if you said to me, would you rather get a Han Solo teaser during the Super Bowl or well after the Super Bowl? I would choose during the Super Bowl, because well after would have me continuing to question, why are they waiting so long? But I do like what you just said, where, because, Super Bowl TV spots, we all know how much money that kind of stuff costs.
$5 million for 30 seconds.
What if they went with a smaller slot, took 30 seconds, and used it more as a trailer teaser than an official teaser trailer or official trailer? That might be the better approach, where it puts it back in people's minds, maybe in a positive way, and then the next week we get something full that everyone can really dig into and appreciate.
Perri, I got good news. I just hired you at Lucasfilm as your director of
I've
marketing.
always wanted to be paid by
And
Disney.
I just gave you $5 million. You are going to spend that on a Solo trailer for 30 seconds during the Super Bowl. What are you putting in that trailer?
You come up with a different version of Chewie, We're Home, something that gives you that same feeling where we see these characters back on the Falcon, that basically brings back those same types of chills, but in a different way. That way you can connect it to the original trilogy and you can connect it to The Force Awakens.
Yeah, Reilly, I mean, look, $5 million, even for Disney, nothing to sneeze at for just 30 seconds during the Super Bowl. Do you think that they're going to spend more than that? Do you think that they would go for a whole minute during the Super Bowl? Do you think it's just going to be 30 seconds, it's going to be a nice little tease, and then we get a full trailer later on in the week?
Well, we got to look at the Excel spreadsheet here of the budget already on the fact that they reshot the entire movie, had to replace the director, and, but there's no box on this Excel spreadsheet for marketing yet, obviously. We haven't seen anything. So I think 30 seconds is good. I think you spend the $5 million because you have to get people excited. But to your point, Perri, there are going to be a lot of other trailers. There are going to be a lot of commercials that people are going to be buzzing about the game. You're going to be at a party where everybody's talking and stuff. The game is going to be less kind of, focused on.
Oh, that sounds dreadful.
Yeah,
Sorry, continue.
yeah. But you're at a party, you're drinking, you're having chips and dips and whatnot, and then everything's got to stop because here's the Solo, and everybody's going to stop and go, what is this? Now, when you have, like, my parents or, some of the older generation that are just watching the game, it might pass them by and they go, another Star Wars movie's out. Great. But for us, we want to buzz about it. We want to talk about it. I think it can get lost in all of that chatter. So they have to really knock it out of the park. but I think that they could tease it with the 30-second spot, and then we're going to get something more later on down the line. But I don't know. I don't know what to think about this decision. I think it's the right move because where else are you going to get so many eyes on this thing? But they have to hit it out of the park because now the conversation is how it's been troubled, nothing. It's going to be like, already we're talking, it's going to be the least big box office Star Wars movie, right? That sounded horrible to say, but it's not going to make as much as like The Last Jedi, Force Awakens, Rogue One even. So here's hoping.
I think it does have a shot to do better than Rogue One if it's good, to cross that $1 billion. If it's good, just because Han Solo and Chewie and Lando, they're such marketable characters. Boba Fett thrown in there. Rocha, Disney usually likes to own the day when they drop a Star Wars trailer, and when you drop something during the Super Bowl, like Perri and Reilly pointed out, you're competing for hashtags on Twitter for a number of other things, whether it's a trailer, there's going to be an Infinity War trailer in all likelihood, another Black Panther trailer, Mission Impossible. Yeah. There's other studios that have completely declined to put any marketing into the Super Bowl because they just don't see the investment as being worth it. Studios like Fox and Sony, amongst others, have said they're not going to show anything during the Super Bowl, probably because of the price tag. So is this the right move for Han Solo at this juncture?
I think so because of the history of this production, this particular production. I think it's the right move. It's a ballsy move, which I appreciate. A rather gutsy move, which I appreciate. I like the fact that they're putting that forward. They're taking the chance. They're putting it out there. And I don't think it's going to be 30 seconds. I think it's going to be a minute.
Ooh,
I don't think it'll be a minute.
10 million.
Yeah, I think a minute. What's 10? It's like 10 cents for me, for Disney. It's
for you?
10 cents.
I get a loan?
That's what I'm saying. No, I'm saying for Disney, it's like 10 cents for me. Whatever it is, 10 million is nothing for Disney to put it out there. And it's interesting. It's going to be on NBC, which is owned by Universal. So that's going to be interesting how that's going to play out. If they're going to be able to give them a minute to promote that movie, which is a rival studio, that'll be interesting to see. Fox, Sony, and Warner Brothers are not putting stuff on there because they think that they can go online, do stuff on YouTube, it'll get just as many eyes on it, which I understand. But this is something else. And Mark, you bring up a great point with all these other films that are going to get trailers, but only Infinity War is going to come close to rivaling the fandom that people have for Star Wars. So I think the great way to come out of the gate to say, we've got the guts to put this on the Super Bowl. We believe in it this much. We're going to give you a minute. You're going to love it by the time you're going to see the Kessel Run. You're going to see Emilia Clarke in there. I want to see a badass Chewie. I hate that picture of Chewie going, hey, can I get in the picture too? I don't like that. I want to see Chewbacca being a badass, and I want to see a little Lando smoothness in there. I think we're going to see a lot of that, and I think we're going to see a hint of Boba. A hint, just a hint, that lets us think, oh, he might be showing up, or even Jabba. We might even see Jabba, so that'll be fun. But to me, I like this decision. I appreciate the guts in it. And, when you've got all this trouble production, you got to take chances to bring people back. So if you're going to put this there and it's a great trailer, people will come running back and it will eclipse Rogue One if it's right.
Yeah, but Perri, so it seems like Rocha really believes that Disney is so confident in how Solo looks that's why they're putting it in front of the Super Bowl. Is it that case, or is it just because we're out of time at this point?
I think we're out of time. I mean, everybody out there knows I always like to look at the bright side of things and think the best of people and all that, but
except me.
I really do, except Rocha. I really do think, though, that if they were that confident in this, why wouldn't you have released it this week before Super Bowl or the week before? Because the excuse that you want to distance it from The Last Jedi and its box office run, that kind of went out the window when it was pulled from China theaters so quickly, and when it dropped out of the top 5 domestically so fast too. You had 2 weeks where nothing big was really going on in the movie industry in terms of new releases or like gigantic new trailers. You had the chance to do it. Why didn't you do it then?
The biggest new trailer that was dropped was another Disney property, Ant-Man and the Wasp, that comes out 2 months later, Rocha.
Yeah, so maybe they just wanted to let things die a little bit. Ant-Man and the Wasp does not have the negative connotation that Last Jedi has with some members of the Star Wars fandom. I think they're doing all the right moves here. I think letting it settle, relax, getting people a little panicky or angry that they haven't seen a trailer yet, and then boom, they go out and all the people who are so negative against it could be like, damn, I shouldn't have said nothing. They knew what they were doing the whole time. I can't wait to go see this movie.
That's if they stick the landing.
Yeah, if they stick, right.
They
Mark,
really have to stick the landing.
Everything depends on sticking
to change the conversation.
Purposely sparking any type of negativity or feelings of anger sounds like Well, but that is kind of what is happening.
Well, sure, but I don't think it was on purpose. I think they were doing it trying to let it die down, and then fans, of course, because Star Wars fans are so rabid now coming out of Jedi. But imagine this: first half ends, and they announce it in the beginning, like, oh, the trailer's coming. Like the announcers go, it's coming up, the Star Wars trailer at halftime. Then you get the Star Wars trailer, then the halftime show starts. So you're waiting. You're not missing any football. You get to focus on the trailer. Then you get a little Justin Timberlake action. I think that's the smart move. If you drop it in the middle of the game, I think that's a mistake. That's what I think is a mistake.
I've seen a few football games in my life. I am gonna bet that if a Han Solo trailer does drop during the Super Bowl, it's gonna be at the end of the first quarter. I think the end of the first quarter, because look, when you have the Super Bowl is played, the first series before the first break, that happens, and then they go to break, and then that's like a couple huge commercials. Not usually a movie trailer though. So I think that they wait until the end of the first quarter. Reilly, if that is the case, or wherever they decide to drop it, we heard from Perri and Rocha. What do you need to see in that trailer that's going to sell you?
I need to see Alden Ehrenreich to really sell me.
He's just got to talk, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's got to talk. I don't really care. I don't need to see like there's kind of what we have in mind of what Han Solo looks like. He's always wearing a cool jacket and pants with some kind of color down the. I don't think he's going to have that. I would love to see. I guess everybody's saying there's some Boba Fett action that might be appearing in this movie. Jabba the Hutt, maybe. There's been rumors of Darth Vader. If they show Darth Vader, that's going to bug me a little bit, because I think they're going to be relying on, like they did with, and they didn't rely on it with Rogue One, but everybody's like, Vader, 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 Vader. I don't want to see that again. I think Boba Fett might sell me a bit, and that's the fan in me, that's the nerd in me that loves this world. Yeah. But I think really we need to see what our Han Solo, our young Han Solo, looks like. How does he talk? How does he sound? How does he have a swagger? And I think if you end it on, Perri, I love your point of Chewie, we're home. Is it Lando going, hey, check out over here, and it ends with a shot of the Millennium Falcon? I think that would be a nice tease for what we're going to see in the movie.
Yeah, like I said earlier this week, just give me that Jason Bourne punch. That punch, we were talking about that 30 minutes after it happened when that spot aired during the Super Bowl.
You know what I remember? One of the TV spots that really did make waves at a Super Bowl was Matrix Reloaded, because it was that one shot of him taking out like the 30 Mr. Smiths, and everybody. I remember being at a big Super Bowl party where that stopped everybody. Everybody was like drinking. It was near halftime. Everybody was refilling their drinks, getting some food, and everybody went, "What the hell?" and just started watching it, and just silence. That's what we need. We need something that's so big. So because it's not it. Matrix was a sequel. But we need, and this isn't a sequel, but we need that shot that everybody stops and just like, it doesn't even know that there's more dip on the table.
Are y'all going to Super Bowl parties? And you're like, is this going to be a situation where you stop the room and you say, hey, everybody, shut up, stop talking, we need to watch the Solo trailer?
I'm going to stand up in the middle of my flight back to LA. I'll be like, everyone, stop right now.
Wait a minute. Wait, what?
The Solo
You're
trailer
going
is
to be
on.
in the air?
There's a Super Bowl party on a plane?
You're going to be in the air when the Super Bowl is happening?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
I got to go home to New York to celebrate.
I don't know how you live your life.
I
I don't know how you live your life.
I don't have
being
a
on a
choice.
plane during a Super Bowl.
I didn't choose it to be that way. I only had one option, and that's what it was.
Hey, look, if recent history is any indication, Perri's good at being on flights when Star Wars trailers drop. So.
And I wasn't on that flight.
Oh, you weren't?
I didn't do that reaction with you guys.
Well, I was, and it was a whole lot of fun, except people looking at me weird when I was holding my phone like this, and I'm like, don't worry about it. I got stuff to do. We're going to move on to agree or disagree. This is a part of the show. We'll say a premise, the crew will agree or disagree, and it spins a whole yarn into itself. Josh McCouga, we hope you're watching right now, because boy, do we have some good news for you. Bad Boys for Life is back on. The movie is going to star Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, and reportedly will have a August start date. That's because we have a new director. It's actually a directing duo of Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah. They're in talks to direct. They're a team of directors. They also have done a movie called Black in 2015, and they have a movie coming out later this year called Gangsta. Now, Joe Carnahan was originally attached to direct, but that eventually dropped off. So if Will Smith and Martin Lawrence are returning, Jerry Bruckheimer is going to return to produce as well. And like I said, August start date. Mark Reilly, is this thing happening? Can we call McCouga?
Yeah, I know. I dropped the link in for McCouga, and I think now even Makuga is wary of this because we've had so many. Joe Carnahan was on this thing, and then left. Creative differences. We had a release date set, then it kind of fell away. I don't know about this. I really don't know about this. We're taking this directing duo that is already attached to Beverly Hills Cop 4, which I think needs to just go away. We don't need a Beverly Hills Cop 4.
I'd rather see a Bad Boys for Life than I would Beverly Hills Cop 4, to be honest.
I would too. And because I think I think the fans are more willing to see a Bad Boys for Life. It's an interesting, I have zero knowledge of these directors, so I don't know what to expect because the first Bad Boys was a really great action movie that did have shades of some Beverly Hills Cop, but the second one is so out of control, over the top. Michael Bay, I want to say at his finest in Bad Boys 2, that what is this third one going to be? It's going to be an interesting balance to see what it does. I don't know. Should we text Makuga right now and see what he thinks?
I think he's already on top of his building, pounding his chest. He is very excited about this news. And to be honest, so am I. I mean, look, the big thing with Bad Boys for Life, Perri, is that you have to find a schedule hole that Will Smith has, okay? Martin Lawrence is available. You're going to be able to find directors that can make this movie, but it's all predicated on when Will Smith can do it, and if he's still interested in doing it. If Will Smith is interested in doing this movie, then I think it's going to be successful having those two back. And I'm interested in this directing duo as well. They did that movie Black, like I mentioned, and that was it had romantic elements too. It was a smaller movie about somebody in one gang and they fall for somebody in another gang, and having that gritty kind of street sensibility that this team evidently does, I think that's going to work really well. And when you put it with the comedic tone that we have in the first two Bad Boys, I think this could be awesome. Am I getting too excited about this?
I don't know. Normally, I would say yes, because it's like a fool me once type thing where, you don't want to get so excited and then all of a sudden the whole thing falls apart yet again. And we've been talking about this movie for a long time now. For some reason, though, getting the sense that Sony went after up-and-coming directors, because now I want to check out that first movie of theirs also, but the fact that they went after a directing duo and attached them, and the source article for this still mentions both stars of Bad Boys, it seems like it could happen. I'm so hesitant to say it and kind of place a bet on it just because of what has happened recently with this movie, but I have a little more faith in this iteration of it for a reason I clearly can't articulate with just like black and white facts, but I feel like this is bound to happen. We've been talking about it long enough. There's been so many people in and out of this project. I don't think there's a chance that this movie won't happen at all. Will it happen this time? Maybe not, but I think it's going to happen at some point.
Rocha, do you agree with Perri that we should have a healthy level of skepticism when it comes to this iteration of the movie coming out?
Well, sure. I think for any franchise like this that's really built on, what would you say this, on like a buddy cop duo type thing, you coming back this many years later, we saw what happened with Beverly Hills Cop 3. So you should have skepticism, right? Not a lot of third installments do great work in franchises like this. So, but I like this idea of these young guys coming in. If you didn't see Snowfall was an interesting TV show to try to get into. They explored what was going on at the time with the drugs and all that kind at the time, and so everything. So I think they did a nice job on a smaller scale. What can they do with this? If they're going to go with a little harder edge like the first movie was, instead of that ridiculous second movie they're going to attack Cuba. But the first movie I absolutely love, with a young Téa Leoni, Jessica Cario, and you have great interactions between them and their fellow cops. Joey Pants is in there as their chief.
Oh, yeah.
All of that is great in the first film. So if they can capture that magic, and remember, Michael Bay was a young action director at that time.
Yeah.
So you've got young guys coming in who've got some experience directing films and directing TV shows that have a little more of a harder edge to them. It might be a lot of fun to bring back. My concern is, what physical state is Martin Lawrence in? Because remember, since those movies came out, he had some kind of mental stuff happen. He had issues going on. And he doesn't.
I've seen him at the Comedy Store fairly recently. He's in great shape.
So you're talking about stand-up comics.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, he looks good. Yeah,
Okay.
he's Martin Lawrence. He's hilarious. He's awesome. Right. And let's not discount Bad Boys 2 for having maybe the finest acting work from Mr. Dan Marino we've ever seen. So hope to see you in Bad Boys for Life.
Here's a question for you. What athlete would you, because we had John Sally in the first one. We got Dan Marino in the second one. Who are you seeing in the third? Is it Tom Brady, maybe?
Well, no, the movie takes place in Miami.
Miami?
Yeah, then I would want to see somebody from the Miami Heat. I'd like to see
Ooh.
Dwayne Wade come back, or
Well,
maybe
he's
have
with
a
the Cavaliers,
have a Wade and LeBron cameo where they're like
Oh,
where they come
Jay
back.
Cutler.
I like that. Cutler. Ain't nobody clamoring for Cutler.
Jay Cutler, I think, could be a serviceable villain.
Well,
in that.
he's married to the reality star. I forget her name offhand, but yeah, so maybe that could be a pairing.
Great contribution. We're gonna move
Thank
on,
you!
and we are gonna
Wait,
talk
wait,
about.
did anybody catch Perry's face on that reaction?
No, because thankfully
Because
they
it's
hadn't cut to
meme-worthy.
me.
I'm sorry I'm a fountain of information. I'm sorry.
About 10 years ago, J.K. Rowling revealed to her legions of fans that the character of Albus Dumbledore was in fact gay and had specifically had a love affair in his youth with a wizard that later turned evil, that being none other than Gellert Grindelwald. Now, in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald director David Yates revealed that they will not be touching on this backstory in the new movie. Yates said, quote, "Not explicitly. But I think that all fans are aware of that. He had a very intense relationship with Grindelwald when they were young men. They fell in love with each other's ideas, ideology, and each other." John Rocha,
Yes,
I know
sir.
that you're probably as steeped in this as you are Jay Cutler's personal affairs.
Hell.
So do you think that this is the right move for them to kind of skate over the fact that Dumbledore and Grindelwald had this relationship? Or would it be an important thing to be out there in the world that we are going to touch on this, we're going to show it, we're going to see what happened with that love affair?
This is very difficult for me because David Yates kind of walks that line because he said not like specifically, right? Isn't that what he said? He said he's not going to, what did he say, Perry?
Not explicitly.
Not explicitly. So what does that mean? I mean, we're not going to get kisses. We're not going to get, I'm sure we're not going to get a love scene. So what does explicitly mean? So that's the thing. It's a very subjective term. When I first heard this, I was upset because J.K. made a very powerful statement about this 10 years ago that Dumbledore is gay. It shook the foundations of the Potter fandom. People were super excited about it and were very, very accepting of it and loved it, right? Because you don't get a lot of mainstream gay homosexual characters, male or female, in these big franchises, in these big properties. But there are 3 more movies in this series. So maybe Yates is saying, we're just going to touch on it in this one, and then we're going to get deeper into it as we go along. But if they're not going to address it and really confront it head on, I think it's a massive mistake in 2018 to not do that. Because we're all ready for it, and we're okay with it. And everything, look how quickly gay marriage happened in this country. Like from 1 second it was not, no one was for it, and then boom, it was not a problem. So I think they make a huge mistake here. But there's a lot involved here, Mark, because Johnny Depp, J.K. has had to kind of defend Johnny's casting. So has David Yates, and it's been kind of a minefield of them defending him. And then if J.K. is going to take a step back and not, because she's writing the screenplay, not be overt about making it clear that Dumbledore's homosexual and has his relationship with Grindelwald, I think it'll hurt the fans a lot.
Yeah, but the only thing I think that would be worse than them not showing something that clearly is a big part of the story is them shoehorning it in just to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that could be the worst possible thing you do. So if this is not in service of this story, and I do agree with you where I think that Yates's quote says not explicitly, I think that means you're going to see flashes of it. You're going to see flares. You might not see this huge scene in a bedroom, but you're going to know that they had an intense relationship that might have spilled over from just the confines of friendship. That's how I feel about it. Do you agree with that, Reilly?
I totally agree with it. And if you look at J.K. Rowling, she got attacked on Twitter for this.
Oh, she did?
She got absolutely...
Well, because she's very vocal on Twitter,
She's
too.
very vocal
about
on Twitter.
social issues in
and
the
she
world.
will take you down, boy,
Yes,
if
she
you're not
will.
ready. So she said, being sent abuse about an interview that didn't involve me, about a screenplay I wrote, but which none of the angry people have read, which is a part of a 5-movie series that's only 1 installment
There you
in,
go. Yep.
is obviously tons of fun. But you know what's even more fun? Mute button. That's why I love JK. We don't know what the script is. We don't know what it is. But if you know that Dumbledore is gay, and that's part of his character, and it's part of a backstory that J.K. Rowling shared with us, then that is a story element that you can walk into. And when David Yates says, I'm not going to show it explicitly, it's exactly what you said, Ellis. We might not see something in the bedroom. But if these two characters get together and there's something going on there, and there is references or there is dramatic moments that you can feel between these two characters, there it is. That's the story. I think we need to calm down and really just let the story play out the way that these filmmakers want to do. Now, if you walk in and you see the movie and you go, whoop, nope, they blew it, then take to the internet and share your thoughts. But I think we need to give it a little time.
But people's strong reactions to it on social media, yeah, it's probably abusive what she got. Of course it was, I'm sure, it's social media, but people's reactions speaks volumes about how important this really is to people in the fandom, that this stays faithful. And so
absolutely,
there
and
is
they
a
want
positive
to see
way to spin that.
Absolutely, and they want to see themselves represented on
Yes,
screen in
absolutely.
these big movies that have the ability and that have the platform to make something and make a statement. And I agree with that too. But it could be there, and we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, Perri, do you agree with that sentiment that Reilly gives us, is that we're going to see it? It might not be overt, but it is still important to have that notion out there.
I would be pretty shocked if she had revealed this information 10 years ago and it was completely stripped from this film franchise.
Yep.
And when we did that news video yesterday, I mean, it's not just social media reactions. I read a lot of articles with very, very bold headlines that very clearly interpreted, not explicitly, one way and not the other. And I understand why they would go down that road with it, because especially nowadays when we have so many film franchises making waves with various issues right now, when you're talking about a big franchise and a big studio like Warner Brothers, I do think they have a responsibility to address things like this and continue that push to make a difference. So it would be a shame, and I think it would be a huge disappointment and also kind of inappropriate to completely wipe this out of the story. But when I read Yates's quote, I kind of got the impression that that was not the road that they were traveling down. And especially when I found J.K. Rowling's tweet in response to all this, to me, it does seem like they are not going to explicitly say it in that first movie with these two characters in it, but they are going to pave the way to addressing it down the line, which makes sense. And it was something we brought up on that news video yesterday. Maybe in this time period, and you know, I understand it's a fictional world, maybe it's not okay to come out and say things like that. And maybe they have to work it out amongst themselves until they're ready to put something like that out there. And that's a story idea that I would like to explore. But
that's a great point,
the
Perri.
only thing that makes me worried about this is that I know that the other Fantastic Beast movies, like, what if this next one doesn't do well? And then we don't get that. And then all of a sudden you had this rich story detail about a very important character that never really gets to see the light of day. That would be unfortunate.
And the responses to Fantastic Beasts, you can correlate that to the Last Jedi. A lot of Harry Potter fans did not like Fantastic Beasts. They liked the story with Goldie and I forget the other character's name. The Josh, is it Josh Gad or Feldman, whoever played that character? They liked that love story, but overall they felt the film wasn't the quality that they would like to have seen from the Harry Potter franchise. So this is going to be interesting, Perri, what you bring up. But I also love your point, this idea that they can explore how they would come out, how they would announce this situation. Is there prejudice against them being homosexual? Is that going to mirror what happens in our society or in the world? Like, are they going to make a statement through the film about this too? So that's an interesting thing to explore.
It was Dan Fogler you're thinking of.
Dan Fogler,
I think it might be a mistake not to at least have something in here, because you want people talking about this movie. And even though this might not be the easiest to agree sentiment with the world at large right now, the first Fantastic Beasts, I felt was it was a letdown, because the story didn't have a lot of punch to it. There wasn't a whole lot of stuff to get really excited about, and this would be something that will at least generate fan interest or conversation or buzz that otherwise might be lacking from a movie like this. So we'll see how that actually plays out, and like Reilly and others pointed out, is that there's a lot more stories to tell in this world. Should this movie be successful? That's the real question. Well, a movie that was very successful almost 15 years ago was The Passion of the Christ, and if you've read the Bible, there's room for a sequel in there. That's why Jim Caviezel is talking about possibly coming back. The second coming of Jesus Christ is in the making. Entertainment Weekly has confirmed that Jim Caviezel is in talks to return for Jesus in Mel Gibson's follow-up, a story that will be based on the resurrection and the events that followed after. A start of production and release date has not been announced at this time. The project is tentatively titled The Resurrection. So Mel Gibson's been wanting to do this follow-up for a long time, and he mentioned way back in 2016 that, wasn't that a long time ago, that he wanted to do this, but he probably thinks because of everything that it would take to get it off the ground, it would be 2019 or 2020 at the earliest. Mark, Reilly, are we ready for The Resurrection?
I mean, yes. I think that if you look at the box office of Passion of the Christ, that was a surprise to me. But then when you kind of put a lot of factors in place, it was released over Easter weekend. There was, it was a well done movie.
By the old Mel Gibson.
By the old Mel Gibson. Yeah, it's hard, especially with him, to separate the art from the man. And this is interesting to go back to. So I am going to be looking at this very closely to see if it, one, gets done, because I know we have Randall Wallace, who did write Braveheart, writing this and spending the time on this. Does an audience want the resurrection story? I really don't know, because the faith-based movies are not something that I flock to, but I enjoyed The Passion of the Christ. So curiosity has me, but at the same point, it's Mel Gibson, and this is a very, very hard conversation to tackle when this man is now making a comeback, and not a lot of people want this man to make a comeback. So will the faith-based people flock to see this movie in droves like they did with Passion of the Christ and stir up a controversy in doing this? So it's very fascinating. It's very interesting. I'm going to monitor it.
Rocha, do you agree with Reilly? He seems to have some questions about whether Mel Gibson should still be the guy that's going to be directing a movie like this, or should it be handed off to somebody else?
Look, it's a tough question to answer, Mark. I to both Marks, I want to say I think he's the guy that has to do it, because he's the guy that started this thing with. And Mark, you're right. When this film came out, when Passion of Christ came out, people were not flocking to see faith-based movies. He essentially provided the foundation for the faith-based movies that we see now, and none of them have come close to how good Passion of the Christ was, in my opinion. I own it. I watch it every year one time, because it's as growing up Catholic, it's just kind of in your blood for me to watch it. It's a very difficult film to watch, but I think it's a powerful film to watch. And what I think is interesting here is all the stuff that happened afterwards to Gibson. It is very difficult to kind of brush it away. And where everyone's like, kind of, oh, he's coming back. He's going to talk about a resurrection. He's coming back and all this kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what the public's reaction is to it. Especially,
are you saying there's going to be a parallel between Mel Gibson's career resurgence and the actual resurrection?
Well, I wouldn't put it out of Gibson's ego to do that, to be honest with you. And especially because if you look at some of the rumors and sources online are saying he's going to depict the harrowing of hell, which is when between Christ's death and resurrection, he descends into hell and he frees the soul of the righteous dead. Now, souls of the righteous dead. So if he goes into hell, it'll be a lot darker. And Caviezel said Gibson cracked the script, cracked the film, so he found his way into it. And this may be, and he said, it's something we've never seen before in a faith-based movie. So I wouldn't put it past Gibson, because Gibson went all the way in. Some people called it torture porn, the original one, but I thought it was specific, because people need to see, if you believe the story that he was whipped within an inch of his life, you need to see what that looks like so you can understand the sacrifice Christ made for your sins, if you believe that theology and Catholicism, Christianity. So I think Gibson's the guy who does not shy away from hardcore blood, gore, stuff like that, and darkness, to do this story his way. I think he's the right choice. The thing is, will the public respond to him doing it, considering all the stuff that's happened off screen with this guy?
You brought up something very interesting that might have sold me on this movie a little bit more than I had already been, is that there could be a scene where Jesus descends into hell, and what does that look like on screen? Perri, would you agree with Rocha that could be the kind of marketing scene that we see and are like, yeah, we should go check this movie out?
Yeah, I think you kind of need to do a play like that, especially because we're so far after Passion of the Christ. And, Reilly, you brought up, will audiences go out to see this movie? If I'm isolating it to just myself, do I want to see a Passion of the Christ sequel? No, I don't. I've seen it. I have never had an interest in rewatching it. I do kind of respect some of the more impressive elements of it, but it is not something that I am dying to see a sequel of right now. But when you look at the box office, we're talking about $611 million on a $30 million production budget. It makes sense financially, which is why I think it's going to happen. And whether or not Mel Gibson is the right person to direct it, the second you take him out of the equation as director, this movie is not happening at all.
Yeah, I think that it's not going to make the money that the first one did. I mean, it's a very different market. I think that faith-based movies, though, even though Rocha pointed out that they don't do what Passion of the Christ did, every faith-based movie movie that has been released on a small budget has found a much wider audience than most analysts thought it would, simply because there is that market out there. So I think that it could do well. I think it'd be very interesting. And like you said, the Jesus going to hell. You know, bring your cowboy ninja aliens or whatever. I mean, it's going to be really crazy to see something like that. So I would be interested. One of the most powerful scenes in the first Passion of the Christ is when Jesus is being tempted, and you see that devil-like figure that kind of reminds me of the devil-like figure you see at the end of The Exorcist. It's a pretty interesting movie. Check it out if you haven't seen it. Yeah. Okay, we're going to move on to another movie that looks pretty interesting because that is Hereditary, and it comes out June of this year. It is from A24. It's an acclaimed horror movie that has received rave reviews out of Sundance, starring Toni Collette as a woman processing the recent death of her difficult mother when strange occurrences transform the grieving process into a terrifying nightmare, revealing horrifying truths about their ancestry. Reilly, doesn't seem like a great ad for the DNA.com places, but it does seem like something that I really want to check out. People are touting it as this generation's Exorcist. Is it going to get to that lofty standard?
Well, no. No one's gonna touch The Exorcist. I mean, until it does. For now, I'm just gonna savor this trailer. Wow, it was great. The horror lover in me, and the fact that it's A24 who did The Witch, who we have some producers on Split. This Toni Collette is getting rave reviews, and it's funny that this came out. Like a week ago, I watched Sixth Sense, and she's like phenomenal in that movie. And now I'm like, wow, she's back in another kind of role where she's the mother, but it's all centered around her. I don't know what this story is about. Hereditary, horrifying truths about their ancestry. What does this mean? I have no idea what this movie looks like, other than it's going to be a complete mind f. You're going to just like the way the trailer starts. I think it is very telling. There's something about the model and this house where all of a sudden you're coming in and it's like a dollhouse. Then it starts to become real. You're like, wow, okay. There is something about like, are there ghosts like putting us in rat mazes or something? It looks great. It looks great. It's never going to touch The Exorcist, though. How dare you say that?
Well, yeah, I have less questions about that and more so just about the way this trailer shapes up here, because I know you're a big fan of the trailer, but do you think it looks a little too much like Darren Aronofsky's Mother trailers, where the audience may be a little confused and say, is this a straight horror movie, or is this just one other big allegorical mess that could really appeal to me or could really turn me off?
No, that didn't cross my mind at all with this. I mean, now that you bring it up, I am curious to go back and rewatch that trailer, just because that trailer and that film did take place within that house. But I think when you pair A24, Toni Collette, buzz at a Sundance with all those great quotes, and just the actual sense of dread and terror that this trailer earns all on its own, I would be surprised if many out there were busy making that connection instead of focusing on the incredibly striking visuals and how good these performances look, and how, even though I don't have a very clear sense of the story, even though the quote that I was focusing on was private rituals and private friends, which makes me think that maybe the mother that died had some sort of ritual that then affected her family. I think that's the way it's going, but I am so much more focused on the fact that I believe this comes from a first-time feature director. Something that A24 is well known for is going after these smaller, less likely hits and finding new budding filmmakers and really just making their entity a launch pad for them and giving them the opportunity to show their films to the masses. And a June release date, they have to have a whole ton of faith in this movie. And I know we went through that last year with It Comes at Night. And, you know, sometimes you take risks like that and it doesn't pan out well for you. But based on what I see in this trailer, I'm going to stay hopeful that this thing is going to be great, scare the crap out of me, and also do really well in theaters.
Yeah, I wonder if they're just doing counter-programming, because didn't A Ghost Story also come out this past summer, and it literally did nothing at the box office? Rocha, is this going to be the same kind of movie as that, or do you think that this will find an audience like Perri suggests?
I think it will find an audience. A24, you got to respect that studio. The risks they take, and they knock it out of the park way more than they don't. And you can say what you want about It Comes at Night. It's still 78 on the Metacritic score. That's a lot of people did like that movie. Whether my two friends here on the panel who are horror aficionados may not have liked it as much.
I loved it.
You did.
Yeah.
You did not. But Perri,
It Comes at Night.
Yeah.
Oh, it's awful.
Yeah. So it's a
I
split.
thought it was great. I
That
just thought
tells
the
you.
trailer was a little misleading, but
Yeah,
I wonder
right.
if this
But
trailer is also leading us down a path that we might not get in the movie.
No, I don't think so. I think the whole thing with the grandmom and the granddaughter, I think that's going to be the connection that's going to be interesting to explore. And Toni Collette, like Mark said, so much experience doing these kinds of like darker films, harder edge films, and horror films, and she does great work in them. And I like this. I like that she's, because that's her crying in the beginning when you hear the voiceover. That's her crying. I know that voice, and so I think the whole painting of the dolls.
Nobody knows a woman's cry.
No,
John Rocha.
I'm a voiceover guy. It's my job to pick those things up. But like her constructing those dolls, what's that all about? Like, do those have some kind of mystic power or whatever? So, and what's her connection? Or did it skip a generation from, because like you said, the grandmother is the only one that fed the granddaughter. Like you wouldn't let the mom do it. So there's a lot to explore. And you have Gabrielle Byrne, who's gonna, and Alex Wolff,
so good.
for only being 20 years old, this kid has an incredible resume. Enjoyed him in Jumanji. He was in treatment, that HBO show, and he was one of the terrorists in Patriots Day. And then seeing him here in this, like, I love that this is a guy who's building his career. I've never seen the young actress before, but that face of hers is perfect for this kind of horror film. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right, so Rocha thinking that maybe it skips a generation, a lot like Teen Wolf. We're going to save one little live Twitter question for you guys at the end because we're running short on time. I do want to remind you all to subscribe right here to Collider Video. Our Black Panther scoreboard vid is up right now, along with the latest episode of Collider Heroes hosted by John Schnepp. That dropped yesterday. Today, later on, we're going to have a new episode of Jedi Council. Well, they'll probably have a whole lot more speculation for you about when we're going to see that Han Solo trailer and what it might include. Plus, the movie Trivia Schmodown. It is officially back with a triple threat match that's going to be the #1 contender match. That's going to come out tomorrow as well. So get excited for season 5. Speaking of the Schmodown, the Patreon was officially launched. So check out the Patreon right now. See which tier is right for you. There's a whole lot of exciting bonus features that you can check out right now. The movie Trivia Schmodown Patreon. You guys can tweet us anytime at Collider Video. We have one tweet. It's going to be a quick one, and it comes from Blue Leafs 13. Judging by that handle, I think we can see where they want to go with this. Your favorite hockey movie, which one is the better one? The Mighty Ducks or Miracle? Those are the two options.
That's not fair.
Why is that not fair?
That's very easy.
It's Miracle.
It's Miracle.
Miracle.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
it's Miracle.
Okay. It's Miracle, but I grew up watching and rewatching the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah,
the
it's
Mighty
fine.
Ducks has a very special place.
I'm sure
I
it
don't
does.
know. If you said to me, what do you want to watch right now, Miracle or Mighty Ducks, I would 100% pick Mighty Ducks.
See, look, it's tough because, like, not many people get me more excited to watch a movie than Mr. Emilio Estevez. But one of those people is Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
He plays
Thank
Herb
you.
Brooks in the movie. It's one of the great upsets in sports history.
Yep.
The speech he gives is inspirational. Different movie for different moods. But the Mighty Ducks, I just never, it was right in my wheelhouse when I was a little kid, but I just never really glommed onto it. I don't know if it's because it's about hockey or what the reason is. It's my fault. I acknowledge that. Never really got into the Mighty Ducks like I should. Is that my fault?
I was the perfect age for that, and especially as a kid who grew up playing a lot of like team intramural sports and like local leagues, that movie just spoke to me. I wanted to be a Mighty Duck, and when you had the girl hockey players, all I wanted to do was play hockey, and then I was the only girl on the roller hockey team in sleepaway camp, and I know that it was partially because of the Mighty Ducks.
Okay, again, it's not sleepaway camp.
Yes, it is.
If you sleep
just
overnight,
camp.
it's just
camp.
camp. There's day camp and then there's camp.
There's day camp and there's sleepaway camp.
We're missing the best one, though. Slapshot is the best hockey movie ever made, period.
Slapshot's a really good movie. It was
Paul
not a
movie.
contender in this list, but if you do
No.
want to throw your own, is there another hockey movie that you think could sneak in there against Slapshot or Mighty Ducks or Miracle? Goon's pretty good. That's a
Goon
nice
is good.
upset
Goon
test.
is
yeah,
good.
Goon is great.
This cutting edge.
The
count?
cutting edge. I was gonna say it's kind of hockey.
It's kinda- he plays
you know,
hockey,
He
yeah.
plays hockey. What other hockey movies are there?
What's the one with Russell
Yeah.
Crowe, that's the one.
Mystery
Yeah,
Alaska.
Russell Crowe.
There
That's a
you
good
go.
one. That's a
I
good
just
one.
like that Perri could use this time to throw her sporting events in her past
Oh, yeah.
into
You
our
know-
face.
you know
It's
what
not like we
else
didn't
I
play
played?
sports either, Perri.
Well,
Right.
you know what I played all the time? I played basketball, and a certain someone actually 2 people at this table won't play basketball with me.
No. That's not what happened. You liar.
Well, we know
That's
one
not
of
what
them.
happened, Mrs. Fake News. We've challenged each other to a basketball game in a month once I get my cardio back up.
Oh, wow.
And we are gonna get on that because I've had bronchitis and I've had feet issues, but I'm coming back. 2018, I'm coming back.
Is
And
that
My
the
God, you're falling apart,
we're
man.
no, dude, we're gonna film this thing. We're gonna film this thing too for Paris. So we're gonna get it on.
I'm looking for this story. It's unconfirmed that Rocha's cardio is going to be released next month. That's been through several delays in the last couple of years. But
No, his doctor says, what, you're 6'3" and you're 200 and
Yeah.
something
Doctor
pounds
says I'm in
and
the best shape of my
best shape
life.
of your life.
Barry, I would love nothing more than to
svelte
document a
175.
basketball
Okay.
game for everybody here at Collider. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Until that happens, I would welcome anybody to come to the world famous Comedy Store and look at the 5 championship trophies that my team helped put in that front bar. We are damn good at intramural athletics, especially when it comes to round ball. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of Collider Trash Talk. John Rocha, where can the kids find you?
Y'all can find me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. And today, Outlaw Nation will drop a little bit later on SK Plus Podcast Channel. I welcome Rotten Tomatoes' Gray Drake to talk the Oscar nominations.
Okay, he's getting his cardio back up. Perri Nemiroff practicing her dribbling drills. Where can everybody find you?
Probably shooting drills right now. I got to work on my shot a little.
And
Get
your
the-
height.
See, you see
Jeez.
what I mean?
My God. Boo.
Boo.
Yeah.
I
Boo,
bet
Rocha.
she's like Chris Paul and just dribble right around you, boy.
Well, that's what I said. It's like you may be taller
Problem
than
is, I'm
me.
DeAndre Jordan. I'm gonna
You got to
smack
be
that
able
ball
to
out of here.
catch me first, and I got a better shot than this
How
guy.
tall do you think
got-
you are?
You're going one direction. That's to the basket. I just camped there.
Reilly,
So that's
who's winning
that's
this
why
matchup?
I have the better shot, and
Oh,
then
I got-
you won't be able to stop me.
I got Perri winning this one.
Are you
Thank
crazy?
Reilly.
Yep. She's gonna start making it rain, and I'm gonna put it down now on Twitter at Reilly Around and check out my poll.
I am merely Mark Ellis at Mark Ellis Live. You guys can get tickets for all my latest upcoming stand-up gigs, including Omaha and Portland, at my website, markellislive.com. And we will see you guys back here tomorrow for the last episode this week of Collider Movie Talk. Hey everybody, Mark Ellis here. Thanks for watching this episode of Collider Movie Talk. You want to watch more? Then click up here, or you can click right here for more great content from Collider. And if you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, do so right now and share this vid with your friends. Thanks for watching.